Blizzard have just released what I guess we could call their manifesto for hero talent trees in the War Within. And along with it, they've released 8 hero talent trees today. As far as healers go, after today, we now have 5 of the healing talent hero trees, with 8 still to be revealed. As far as healers go, we have all of the Resto Druid trees, we have all of the Holy Paladin trees, we have 1 Preservation Evoker, still missing 1. We're also missing everything from Monk and Shaman, which is a little unfortunate, and effectively everything from Priest. We did get the Oracle tree, the Disc Holy hero talent tree, but it got a bit of flack and criticism because it focused on power infusion, so Blizzard have said that they'll be reworking that in the future. I wanted to talk about hero talents in general before I get into talking about individual trees. For starters, I want to set up some sort of framework by which I'll be judging and talking about and giving feedback on the hero talent trees that we have so far. I also want to mention a couple of things, I guess assumptions that I'm making. First of all, Blizzard are saying that these talent trees are going to be an evergreen form of character progression. I assume that with Blizzard announcing the next 3 expansions that are coming, or at least announcing that they're working on the next set of 3, I assume that that's going to mean that hero talents at least are going to be around for the next 3 expansions. And that is to say that some of the things I'm going to be suggesting and asking for, I guess, can seem like pretty tall orders or big commitments on Blizzard's behalf. But considering that it looks like these are going to be around for at least the next several years, I am swinging for the fences with my feedback. Every class is getting 3 hero talent trees, except for druids, which get 4, and demon hunters, which get 2. As far as healing specs go, the interesting part about this is that every healing spec will have 2 hero talent trees, except for Priest, which will have 3. So Priest is going to be a little bit more interesting than the rest. I also think this is one of those things that could have been easily overlooked when people gave at least their preliminary feedback for Oracle, the PI hero talent tree. The problem Priest is going to have is that because it is the only class in the game that has 2 healing specs and only 1 DPS spec, it's effectively an inverted version of most other hybrids. So Oracle will be the Disc Holy tree, but then the other 2, Void Weaver and Archon, will both be a Shadow and either Disc or Holy tree. And what that means is, if let's say Void Weaver is Shadow Discipline and Archon is Shadow Holy, then I imagine a lot of the kind of iteration on a DPS healing hybrid for Disc and Holy will be covered in those specs, which means that Oracle is left as the double healing talent tree. Oracle almost has to take on the support role, because Oracle, it's going to struggle to compete with Void Weaver and Archon if Oracle is just kind of more of the same. Oracle is supposed to be, instead of a half DPS, half healing talent kind of tree, Oracle is just healing or just support. It has to do more than just augment a couple of holy abilities or a couple of disc abilities, which is why I think maybe people overreacted a little bit with PI. I actually didn't think Oracle was that ridiculous. The people I've talked to about it had the notion that the Oracle tree was basically just adding a whole bunch of power to PI, and in extreme cases, if you played Oracle, you could press PI and give current PI to 3 targets, which just isn't the case. The Oracle power infusion was significantly nerfed compared to what we have at the moment. So the randomness nature of it, I probably would have had more of a problem with than the actual focus of it being power infusion. Because I think Blizzard have now said they're going to go away and like reiterate upon it and come back with something else. But they're going to have to come back with the same sort of tree. It's going to have to be a tree that focuses on either utility or support or some aspect of the Priest toolkit, of the Discipline and Holy toolkit, that stands apart from what Void Weaver and Archon will get. So I thought that doing that through power infusion was actually a pretty okay way of tackling that problem. I imagine they're going to come back with something else, maybe focus on movement or other buffs, maybe even survivability buffs that can be brought or something like that. So I guess what I'm saying is I am not expecting the Oracle rework to come back with anything other than a slightly different version of the same thing that people were complaining about the first time. So that will be interesting to see how that plays out. In the War Within, we'll be leveling from 70 to 80. At level 71, we will all be unlocking our first passive or the first node on the tree for free. And I believe, if I'm reading this wording correctly, also gaining 1 point to spend. And then we'll be gaining 1 talent point per level from 71 to 80, which is 9. Which is something I also see a lot of people, or at least talk to a lot of people who think that what happens is they take the first node on the tree and then they work down one of the columns and then take the final node on the tree. The idea that we're only going to have 5 points to spend, but we're actually going to have 9. Blizzard is saying here that by the time we hit level 80, we will have every talent in the tree. So the only real options here is the choice nodes. We get everything else. I assume what isn't said here is because we get the first talent for free at 71, I'm guessing we also get the last talent for free at 80, and then the 9 points we get while leveling we can spend on everything. As far as what Blizzard are aiming for and expecting to get out of hero talents, what they're kind of planning on them to provide, and how I'll be judging and talking about a lot of these trees. Hero talents, or the trees, are meant to add enough damage or healing throughput to be significant without being so important that these new talents overshadow current class and spec trees. So that will be number one. Are they significant? Second is that their goal is for options to feel similarly effective in raid, dungeons, mythic plus, and PvP. I'm going to take this as them referring to both of the hero talent options, not both talent choices in a tree. I mean both trees themselves as being somewhat equal options. Third is that they're trying to avoid abilities or bonuses in hero talents that could make a certain tree feel required. And lastly, their guiding principles for the gameplay effect or the overall result of hero talents is that they want the talent trees you pick to affect your capabilities, your rotation, and what you pay attention to in combat, which could also mean what you're watching on your user interface. What Blizzard also touched on here is that each of the talent trees were going to add some kind of cosmetic or visual component. Hero talent trees, well, most, ideally all, will add new visual effects to classes, both to communicate what they're doing and bring their class fantasies to life. This is something I think Blizzard have actually done a reasonably good job of over the past 2 decades, and that is that ideally, you can just see what you're up against, especially in PvP or even in PvE. You can see what spec you're playing with based purely on visuals. Sometimes this is extremely obvious, like just spec icons on arena frames or something. So you know that it's a Resto Druid, or you know that it's a Disciplined Priest and not a Holy Priest, even though you see the Priest, maybe you see Levitate and you see a Fortitude buff or something, so you know it's a Priest. But there's extra visual indicators to tell you that you're actually playing with or playing against a Holy Priest or a Disciplined Priest, as an example. I would really like to see this sort of thing go forward, especially if hero talent trees are progression systems that are going to be around for the next couple of expansions, multiple years, and they're going to have some, what looks like so far at least, some pretty interesting and powerful abilities to play around, or that you might expect an enemy or an ally to have. Being able to see that you're facing, let's say, an Oracle Priest rather than an Archon Priest is something that I would really like to see happen, just visually. So I'm glad that Blizzard have mentioned it here, and I'll be interested to see how that plays out in beta. That's it as far as the kind of overall rambling for the hero talent tree system at large. Coming shortly will be a video discussing each of the healing hero talent trees we have so far and how I feel about them. At the moment, in general, that is that the Druid ones are quite poor and all of the other ones so far are quite good. I am very hopeful that we get Shaman and Mistweaver, or Resto Shaman and Mistweaver trees somewhat soon. I'm excited to see what Conduit of the Celestials or Master of Harmony has for Mistweaver in particular, and the Totemic talent tree for Resto Shaman. If you've made it this far, thanks for watching, and algorithm stuff.